And I can edit this if I need to. Okay. All right, we're here. Yeah, I don't know exactly what this is going to be, but thank you guys for doing it. Thank you, Kaitlyn, for stepping up. You're a District 8 resident, correct? And Tony, you're running for City Council in District 8. I think there's one other person that has announced they're running as well. But first, maybe we can just introduce ourselves for anyone that might be listening or watching. I'm Paul DiGiovanni. I'm the moderator of Ideas for CoSA, which is a Facebook group and a community for civic engagement in San Antonio. You guys are both members. You've interacted there. Personally, I'm a web marketer and freelancer in the community. I've lived in San Antonio for 7.5 years now. I live in Alamo Heights, so technically I don't live in San Antonio. I can't vote in the elections coming up, but I do care about what's going on. Obviously, San Antonio is a big part of my life. Everything I do almost is in San Antonio, and I'm interested in local government. And I think there's a lot that can be done by citizens in local government. I think it's the most accessible form of government for citizens, and I think it's very powerful. And I think we're trending towards local government being more important. So that's a big reason why I do stuff like this. So I guess we'll start with Kaitlyn next, just a quick introduction, and thank you again for doing this.
Okay. My name's Kaitlyn Brenner. I'm a UTSA student and I work at the Mesa La Cantera, but obviously the student part is more important. I'm just working on it.
What do you study?
Biology.
Okay.
And let's see, so I was born and raised in San Antonio, in District 1, I'm in District 8 now. Been living there for a couple of years now. In my apartment at UTSA.
How old are you, if you don't mind?
Oh, I'm 27.
27, okay. I'm 29, so we're both millennials, like the hot demographic everyone keeps talking about, kind of annoying, but anyways. Tony, Valdivia, correct?
Yes.
I know you work at USAA, you're running for City Council, and we've interacted a little bit in the group, but that's kind of all I think we know about you. So.
All right, so yes, my name is Tony Valdivia. I am running for City Council, and really I like to think of it as describing what I do as a mission, and that's to improve the lives of those in my community. So I do that through a number of ways. One is I work for an organization that's dedicated to serving those that have served our country. So that mission speaks to my mission. The second way is I make strategic investments in real estate. So I go in, fix houses up, provide affordable, safe, clean living for individuals and families. The third way is through volunteer work. I've been active in a lot of different organizations, and most recently I was volunteering for District 8, serving as a special projects coordinator. So helped Ron and Ray out with a number of programs they had going on, from handing out backpacks at the back to school program to working on the bond initiative to just doing whatever needs to be done. And now fourth, running for City Council.
Yeah, cool. You're from San Antonio?
Well, I've lived all over. Okay. I've lived in a number of cities throughout the U.S., including Mexico City. Oh, cool. And I moved here about 3 years ago. And one of the things I love about San Antonio is the cultural richness. It reminds me of my family. My dad was born in Mexico, came here at the age of 15. My mom's side is our descendants from Finland. So her great-grandparents were all born there, came here as immigrants. And then my wife was born in South Africa. Oh, wow. And so I feel like we have that cultural diversity just in my own family. That's one thing I really appreciate about the city, and that's why I'm proud to call San Antonio home.
How long did you live in Mexico City?
It was about 3.5 years.
So you speak Spanish?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
Around.
A little rusty. Okay. But yes. Yeah. Cool. I mean, then of course.
So how long have you been in San Antonio?
Just over 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And you worked for USAA that entire time?
Correct.
Okay. And what did you do before USAA?
I worked for a company called Service Corporation International. They're actually the largest owner and operator of funeral homes and cemeteries.
Oh, okay.
And so one of their missions is helping people through what is arguably one of the most difficult times in their life, and that's the passing of a loved one. Yeah. And so I've worked in finance for a number of years. So one of the things I do is I take a lot of data, figure out what the trends are, what makes sense, do CBAs and figure or cost benefit analysis, and then figure out, hey, which direction do we need to lead into, and use that to help drive strategies. And so that's, I think, one of the skill sets that would transition over into the city council roles, being able to look at the vast amount of data that's available out there, aggregate that, make some decisions based on that, and turn it into actionable advice that we can use to create strategy to drive the city forward.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Let's go back to how you got interested in local government, where that started, and then when you started working with Ron and how you got involved. What did you do for him? The special projects? Or? Special project coordinator is the title that had this. Talk about how you got into local government, when your interest started, maybe whenever that was, and then how you got interested in District 8 specifically.
So, I can't say I've always been like a political activist or anything, but I was trying to stay aware of the local issues, what was going on. And I think what really drove the point home to me was this last election, this presidential election, when we had, to me, what seemed like probably one of the ugliest campaigns I've ever seen. I know I'm not that old, but it was very very concerning to me. And one of the things that's also different between this election and prior elections is I have two little girls. So I have a 3-year-old and then another one that just turned 2 a couple of weeks ago. And it started making me think more about what kind of role and place am I going to be leaving to not only others, but to my children. So there's a little bit of a selfish motivation in there to make the world better, not just for everybody, but for my daughters. So, like I said, I had been involved throughout my life through different volunteer organizations. So I said, maybe one of the biggest areas I can make an impact is my local government. Because if I don't like the way our country and our government is headed, this is my chance to be the change that I want to see in the world. Yeah. And so I said, the only way to do is go out there and take action. So one of the things is I just went to the city website, try to find out who do I talk to, fill out an online form, send it off, didn't get a response. I found Ron Nuremberg's campaign page, filled out something there, didn't hear anything back. Finally, found some phone numbers, made a couple calls. Finally got a hold of a secretary that was like, oh, hey, you're interested in helping out? I tell you what, we've got this back to school thing. Why don't you come out to that? I was like, oh, that sounds great. So I went out there, just doing what I can, setting up, handing out backpacks, distributing snacks to the kids, and just whatever I could to help. And then as I was there, Ray Garza, who's the district manager for District 8, was there, and he just saw me and said, hey, it looks like you're willing to help out. I've got some projects, why don't we meet? So I went over to the office, met, and that was it. Just started getting involved. And the more I got involved, the more I was like, you're right on. It's like the place where you can make the biggest impact is local government. And the one thing I want to point out there is, despite having the facade of technology, right, the email where you could send in, it didn't really create that engagement, right? I still had to fill out a couple forms, track down somebody, and speak to somebody over the phone. And I think that's where we missed the mark. And that's where I'd like to see us use technology to break down the barriers between the citizens and our local government. So that way we can make San Antonio the model that other American cities shoot for. And hopefully we change American politics and the world in the process. Yeah, I'm all on board for that. I think technology has been amazing for government in that just the phone, email, and social media have made it much easier to send messages to our representatives and to their offices, but they're not always, if you make a phone call, no one knows you made that phone call except you and the office. No one else can see that you made that phone call. No one else knows if that phone call was returned except you. So in many ways, it's allowed our government to represent more people efficiently, but the transparency element is not quite there. Ideas for CoSA is like an attempt to put it all, our communication all in the public forum. Yes. Yeah, which I think makes it easier. But you make a really good point in that calling, and we need people to do this, and I need to do it more, is calling the offices, going to events. That's how you get through to people. I've heard a lot of people talk about, if you want to make change or you want to influence your rep, call their office, make them deal with the phone call, make your voice literally heard. Tweeting and Facebooking, it doesn't always get there. Exactly. So one of the things you talk about is how technology changed. And I like to ask people this as an example. It's like, do you watch TV? Most people are like, yes, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you watch live TV?
Yeah. Sports. That's about it.
That's about it, right? Why? Because you either DVR it, and some people don't even do that, right? They stream it, right?
Yeah.
So you stream it straight to your laptop or your tablet or even to your phone. So look at all this technology, right? And it's engaged people. I mean, people are more engaged now with consuming media than they ever have been before, right? Like if you look at the stats, more people are watching TV, more people are engaged. And if you don't believe me that people aren't engaged with television, don't get behind on episodes of like Walking Dead or Game of Thrones because somebody on your Facebook feed is going to talk about, oh, who died? And then you're going to be like, oh man, where's the spoiler alert, right? But yet during the same timeline, what has our government done to use that same technology to create the same level of engagement with us as citizens? And that's why I liked the ideas for CoSA page, because it's all out there. It's all out there to see. Why can't we have a suggestion board that's maintained by the city where you can put ideas out there, other people can read them, and then make refinements to them, and then maybe have a section where the city talks about, hey, here's what we're doing to follow up on it. One of the great ideas, one of the big issues we have here is, right, people always talk about city government about taking care of streets, right? Some of the basics, streets, bridges, drainage, sidewalks, parks. So why not have a page dedicated to streets where you can go out there, submit an idea like, you know what, I think Prue Road should be widened from here to here. I vote that's what it should be. That goes up there, and then have like a thumbs up, thumbs down, and people can do the thumbs up, thumbs down, and then that site would rank them based on the net number of thumbs up. And then once again, you could have a column to the side of that where your councilman or the city could talk about that particular project. So you could get the guys do the cost analysis. We're like, hey, to do this project, here's how much it would cost. Yeah. And then you can get your councilman in there saying, you know what, I really think this is a great project, but because of the size of it, I'm going to recommend that we do this when we have the next bond proposal. Or this could be a small project, be like, you know, this intersection, we're not quite seeing the traffic. There's other needs, as you see by the list. And this way it's transparent. So when you hear somebody say, because you hear that a lot, goes, I want a traffic light at this intersection.
They don't know how to get,
and they don't know how to get that. So here that would do, and then it's a transparent. You can see where does that intersection getting that light rank to all the other intersections, to all the other city projects. And it creates a dynamic, so that way you can understand a little bit what the city councilman's going through, like, hey, trying to rank these, and he's also getting the direct feedback from the citizens.
Yeah. So I think we're all on the same page there. Exposing the process a little bit more is good for everybody. I think especially kind of what I call the unaffiliated citizen, the person that's not a part of doesn't contribute to a political action committee or a lobbyist organization, or maybe doesn't work for a company like USAA that may influence what happens. It's really important.
Yeah, but I do know, I do work at USAA, but I do want to.
That's not a knock or anything.
Yeah, I do want to say it real quick. The company stressed that I need to make sure to emphasize the point that anything that I say is not a reflection of values of USAA. So legal disclosure there.
Thank you for reminding us of that. It's important. I think we all agree on that. Maybe we could shift gears a little bit, and maybe Kaitlyn, you can talk about, as a resident, why you got interested in local government and what is kind of on your mind and what you care about. I know you care about rideshare. We can definitely talk about rideshare. But is there maybe we'll table rideshare for now. Is there anything else going on in District 8 that is important to you, or that got you interested, or just your general background in government?
So kind of got involved with local government when with the SA for Sanders group, like getting together, doing everything for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And just afterwards, we kind of come together to form a progressive alliance where we share ideas and have these events where, focusing on local government issues, things like that, mainly local stuff, but we did do stuff for like the Standing Rock, for instance.
Cool. What's that group called?
San Antonio Progressive Alliance.
Okay. I think I've seen it. Yeah, I think I've seen it.
Yeah. And so some of the issues that we're concerned with, we were concerned with the police contract and the lack of accountability with that. With the union contract, there wasn't things in there to ensure that officers get like disciplinary action within like a certain period of time after doing something, and not having a record of that. So like basically, if they don't get disciplined, like nothing happens and there's no record.
It kind of like expunged everything they've done in the past too. Yeah. We can't go back and look at anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big issue. maybe we can get Tony's feedback on that.
It is. And first I want to say that local law enforcement, by and whole, they do a tremendous job. They have a very difficult job. And I value that the service they provide because they're out there putting their lives on the line. I know we just had a recent tragedy that highlights the danger that they face. So I do want to say, first of all, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But there are people out there, there's like, you hear a lot of times like, hey, there are a few bad apples out there. Let's not throw them all together. I say, hey, that's right. There are a few bad apples. So let's create a program to get rid of those few bad apples so it doesn't spoil everybody else. So I think by not being transparent with disciplinary, it's hard to identify who those bad apples are so we can remove them from a position they probably shouldn't be in or get them the proper instruction or training that they need to be role model police officers.
Yeah. And I was at the time when they voted on the contract, I kind of wanted to get it done. And maybe that wasn't the most introspective position because it had been going on for so long. But it is really important that this job is one of the most essential functions of city government. It's about safety.
Yes.
I know you care about, Kaitlyn. We need to make sure our standards for police and fire are the highest of any profession in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they walk around with guns. I mean, we want those people, and they have the right to kill people in certain situations. So they need to be held to the highest standard. We need as much training as we can give them. I think we need to pay them as much as possible. That doesn't mean we write a blank check for them, but it's super important that they have accountability. So would you have voted? Because I know Ron did not approve the contract. Ray did not. Who else did not vote?
I think it was just
those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're both probably running. Ron's definitely running for mayor. Ray's probably going to run for mayor. Mayor Ivy Taylor voted for the contract. What would you have done?
I think as written, probably not. I would have liked to have seen some more changes. And I think some of that should have been addressed ahead of time. So that way it wasn't this prolonged, contract negotiations where a lot of people did feel that like we got to the end of like, oh, we need to get something done. And in that haste to get a deal done, we overlooked a lot of important steps, not only about the disciplinary, but then about the long-term financial impacts of the contract that we signed, and how, years down the road, we're going to be paying for this contract, and it's going to hurt this other services that we can provide. To go back to a little bit to people, I always feel that people want to be led, right? Nobody wakes up anymore and says, "Oh, I want to be managed," right? They want to be led, and part of that is taking care of people. One of the things I learned, growing up, I was going through school. I got a part-time job at Blockbuster. And I was fortunate enough to where within a matter of a year, I became the store manager, which was great because then I could write my schedule and fit my class schedule and then go to school full-time and work full-time. But one of the things I learned is I can either run around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to do everything myself and solve all the problems, or I can find the right people, give them the tools they need, and give them the vision and let them make the decisions. And that's what we need to do with our police forces. Let's empower the right people inside the police force to help train and find the right officers out there so we don't have these issues. Because if we take care of the people take care of the city, right? We don't run the city. We need to lead the people and give them the tools they need to make the difference in their life.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about the whole police contract issue is that the landscape and our culture, even so many events happened from the beginning of when that contract started and when it was approved. I mean, all the news, the videos that we saw, the brutal, things that were on tape on YouTube and Facebook Live. I mean, it's pretty amazing what happened in a crazy way. The contract got approved, so we are where we are. I want to ask Kaitlyn what should be done now, because I see a lot of people that kind of gave up. I don't know if they gave up, but like, oh, we lost. We don't know what to do now. What could, and then I'll go to Tony after that. What could city council do now to improve our police force, increase accountability? Is there a law that people, or an ordinance that people are trying to pass, or like where do we go next on that issue? Because I know a lot of people are kind of like, we don't know what to do now that the contract got approved and the accountability wasn't put in the contract.
Well, I don't really know, because it's like a binding contract and like they voted on it as a union, so the union represents them, and that contract should be binding for the duration of the contract. I don't know how they'd be able to change it.
Yeah.
That was like a stipulation in the contract, and that's why.
So,
and like Ron Nirenberg was really upset because actually some of that stuff was like, it was already in there and it was kind of taken out like on the slide too. Or like there was another bill was happening at the time too. I know that something was taken out on the slide and he was like, well, we need more time. And then they were like, well, you've had this for a while. Yeah, but you modified this like right now. Like,
yeah, they made changes towards the end, definitely. So I guess for someone like Kaitlyn and any citizen, that the contract was approved, is there anything city council can do now, or what should people be, fighting for now? Some of my ideas are like decriminalizing marijuana or changing the way officers approach, traffic stops. Should an officer with a gun be pulling someone over who doesn't have a warrant? They know that information. Should I be getting pulled over by someone with a weapon because I'm going 5 miles per hour on the speed limit? Maybe. I know there's a lot of issues around that, but what do you have any solutions or things that we could do, ideas?
Well, one of the things I think that would help is if there's just greater involvement between citizens and police officers. Because it's so easy to say police officer and have it as a nebulous idea. Let's have some events where you go down to the local station, actually meet people, and then you're like, this is a person. I'm a person. And we start creating that, because like I said, 90% of them, probably greater than that, most of them are great people that have a true calling to help protect and serve and live the mission that is the police force. So I think it's just getting out there, being aware of what they're doing, getting involved in activities. I know a lot of the officer groups have programs where they reach out to the communities and they encourage neighborhood watches, and they do a number of events like that. And I think that's one way where, hey, we may not be able to get anything because there is a contract in place that's legally binding, but there's other ways we can do it through social activity, through volunteerism, and hopefully people pursue those other avenues rather than like, oh man, it's a done deal, there's nothing we can do, and they give up. I would encourage people to constantly stay engaged and find opportunities to reach out to people, because at the end of the day, we're all people, and I think it's just getting down to that.
I think it's really important. The more we can see each other as a family in the city and really get to know each other, and we've definitely lost that with technology to a degree. People know their neighbors less now, and all of that, and the same thing with police. I'm still worried that no matter what, a police officer literally has absolute power, unlike anyone else in our country, because they are holding a gun. They do have the right to use it. They have a ton of laws they can enforce, some of which really don't harm other people necessarily, maybe just harming yourself. So I think there's a lot of issues that, as long as we continue to let them enforce as many laws as they can, there's going to be situations. There's going to be more confrontation, more incidents. If we can lessen the need for them to intervene in certain situations, like drug abuse, I think that could help. That's not the ultimate solution to anything, but I think drug abuse is probably the number one thing where it's like, should someone with a gun really be arresting somebody for using drugs and having an addiction problem? I mean, should we be holding up people at Starbucks or McDonald's for going there and eating that type of food that is very harmful to your body? I don't know. And I don't know if I think that's the only thing city council could really do now, is look at the laws and say, which laws do we really need? Can we decriminalize some of this activity? Could we start a task force that goes in? Maybe it's a part of the police department, but they don't have weapons. They don't have the same authority, but they're there to really do what you're talking about, which is build a community and help people and offer help in a way that isn't threatening and not putting you in handcuffs or fining you or ticketing you for things. I think that's kind of where I feel. I don't know. I think Kaitlyn agrees.
Like, speaking to what you said, like in order to like kind of decrease those, crimes or whatever, another serious issue that we have in the city, and I don't know how much city council can really do to affect this, but we have a serious like mental health crisis in the city with a serious, incredible shortage of psychiatrists. It's actually it's such a big problem. Like there's a revolving door of like the book going in and out of psychiatric hospitals because of that problem. And we actually got UTL Science Center got a grant specifically for like the transitional care clinic to help solve that issue, but you can only go there once you already have been to the hospital, basically, and you've been into crisis. And this is basically because people were going into the hospitals and it was taking them 6 months, basically, to get in to see a psychiatrist, which obviously is completely inadequate. But if we don't take care of those, mental health problems or problems related to like drug or addiction issues and things like that, we don't have those adequate services, then we're going to also keep having a revolving door in jails as well. You have those situations going on a lot of times. That can escalate and,
Yeah. Didn't the city, I forget what they like appointed, they're going to have a psychiatric specialist dealing with homeless or something. I think something came out recently.
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. I don't recall that one offhand, but I know, you bring up a concern, and that's why one of the things I'd like to see is how can city government be a platform for us to help each other and come up with our own solutions. And one of the ways we can do that is by, getting people to volunteer more often. And even on my website at vote20v.com, I have a number of suggestions on there, and I have what I call the Be the Change Challenge. And it's really asking people to do one of 4 things, right? One is to contribute to my campaign. 2 is to spread ideas like this, to share my website or spread ideas that involve, using technology to be engaged, to be more civically active, and to increase volunteerism. 3rd is, of course, I ask for volunteers to help out with my staff. But 4th is to volunteer for any nonprofit here in the city of San Antonio. So I'd ask people to do one of those 4 things. And if people out there are like, I like that idea of volunteering for a nonprofit, I just don't know which one, I'd say, we'll take a look at the San Antonio Food Bank. I'm already signed up to serve out there on December 19th. Which is a Monday from 1:30 to 4, so you can come out there and help me at the food bank. But go out, get involved, find activities. And if mental health is an issue that you care passionately about, I'd invite you to go look up what organizations are helping and how can I contribute to those to help solve the problem. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be us as people looking out for each other that are going to come up with the solutions. Yeah. And that's where I feel like city council could do a better job. Hey, how do we organize these? How do we bring these issues to light? And then give people the opportunity to be like, that is an issue. How do I get involved? How do I do something? Like, hey, here's an organization here, or here's some websites that we can refer you to. And I think if you just give people the tools, and like I said, San Antonio is a diverse community. We have almost 1.4 million people living here. There's people out there with some amazing ideas, and if we just create that platform to bring it all together and start tackling these issues, right? I mean, 1.4 million people, if every San Antonian gave an additional 4 hours of community service. What is that? 5.6 million hours of time. We could solve a lot of our issues, and it wouldn't even involve city trying to pass a new ordinance or city. We could just get out there and do it. Be that change.
I like that message. I think civic engagement is so much more than just local government, and I think we need to talk about that more in the group a little bit. I think it goes to volunteering. Donating to the organizations that are doing the work. And then also, I'm a big proponent of writing and putting your ideas out there and doing research, journalism. I think there's a huge opportunity in a city like San Antonio through the Rivard Report, through the San Antonio Express News op-ed, or through your own blog, through Ideas for CoSA, to do some journalism as an amateur and really get heard. And I've written a bunch of articles in the Rivard Report, in the op-ed section, and it makes a difference just to speak up and write something, which I would encourage anyone to do who cares about anything going on in the city, is to write and put it out there.
And that's very important, because those ideas are the seeds that become action. Yeah. And you talk about the Express News here in San Antonio, and that's why I have a subscription. I know solar people are being conditioned to, hey, let's go get our news for free. But what happens when you do that is then they don't have the resources to pay writers and staff to go out and do those in-depth articles, to go out like, hey, what's really going on at City Hall? What's really going on with this issue? What's going on over here? And get out there, find the truth of the matter, post it outline, so then we can have a discussion about it. So that's one of the things that I encourage people to do is whatever your publication that you love, go out and get a subscription for it. Because it does add value to your life by having that information, by having that knowledge, and then from there, creating your own opinion about it, sharing it, and then like-minded individuals can come together and create solutions.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Maybe
yeah.
we can- yeah. No, I think,
It's-
that's another thing I think we all agree on, and I think that's something we need. I need to promote a little bit more. I want more people in the group to share the initiatives and the causes and the organizations that are doing this.
And yeah, I know I've posted a few things out there like the Democracy OS. I think that's a very interesting concept of what it is. It's a platform where your legislature can put pieces of bills or legislation that are coming up, either current or proposed, on a platform where you can go and you can debate it, and then you have the ability to vote on it right there to give instant feedback before they actually go vote on it. And I think that's another way of using technology to get people engaged. Like, oh, look, I didn't know this was even being proposed. Here it is in plain English, so I can take a look at it, figure out what it means to my daily life, and if this is something important, then I can say something, yes or no, and then that's feedback directly to your representative.
I think there's a lot of tools like that.
Yes.
That's a cool one. I don't know if we're there yet. I think we need to get more people interested and involved, but it's awesome to know that those tools are like seriously right there waiting for us. Like corporations are using them to do awesome things and to get more people involved, to decentralize the processes that control so much of our lives. So I know those things are all waiting for us. And, and we're almost there.
Yeah, so I like to do start testing them out, because it's going to take a while for it to hit that critical mass of you have enough people using it that it's a good pulse for the community.
Yeah.
But the point is we've got to start somewhere. And that's why, on my website, I have that suggestion page where if you have suggestions, you can go out there, fill out the form, send it to me, and then I'll get it posted up there for others
and
to
that's
read.
something obviously you would maintain if you're elected. You would keep that open. And
Ideally, what I could do is get city council to be like, hey, this is a great idea. Let's have the city maintain it, and then that way the city's engaged. But if we can't get that, I wholeheartedly plan on maintaining that page myself, and whatever cost is required to maintain that.
I think it'll make
I just
your
think it's
job
such a
easier.
valuable tool.
Yeah, I think it makes your job easier, and that's one of my proponents of ideas for CoSA was like, I want to make the reps' jobs easier. I don't want to. I mean, they deal with so many people. They each have 140,000 constituents.
Yes,
it's impossible to effectively represent that many people without using some new solutions, which is phone calls and meetings.
It's kind of. I think it's kind of silly to think that you're going to elect somebody who's just smart enough to understand what's best for everybody out there. You got to get out there. That's one tool. You still have to get out and meet people face to face. Have conversations like this to hear what the concerns are, and then develop solutions, both inside city government and then also outside on that volunteerism aspect. And like I said, it's if we could really make San Antonio the vision of what an American city could be, to me that would be truly amazing. And, I know it's what I would want for my girls.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for the city, I think, but I would be upset if we didn't talk about rideshare with Kaitlyn here. I know Kaitlyn and I have talked about it. I wish Carol Fisher was here too, because she's very passionate about this issue too. I'm someone who I want to maintain the choice, the option to use Uber, to use Lyft, because I've found them to be valuable services. They're affordable, it's more efficient, easier. There's times where I've used it to be more safe, and I think there's a valid stance there, but there's also a lot of concerns about how these companies are regulated. Are they safe for everybody, right? So maybe Kaitlyn can talk about how you feel about it and what your concerns are. And actually today they're voting, correct?
Yes.
On the new contract with Uber and Lyft. Maybe we can talk about that first. They're going to approve a 4-year deal, most likely going to approve it, I think. Are you still holding out that they might not? I think.
I don't know. I did speak last night for the other citizens to be heard.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I was heard.
Well, we can talk about that too. How many people were all the counselors there?
No.
How many counselors were there?
Probably about 4 of them.
Yeah, and
that's half of them were paying attention.
that's the experience I've had at Citizens. I think Citizens Be Heard, honestly, is kind of a joke. Not always. Sometimes when there's a big issue, a lot of people show up and all the council is there, and I think I've gotten through to them. I've gone and spoke there 3 times or something. But most of the people that show up are kind of just like anti-abortion people who say the same thing every time, and then there's like a group of people who just yell at city council for like their 3 minutes, and then they move on, and there's no back and forth. Maybe that's a different issue. I don't want to go there. But what did you say about rideshare yesterday?
So we just want them to abide by the same laws and regulations that the taxi companies have to abide by. And in San Antonio, we have a unique situation with the taxi companies. It's not just like, I mean, a lot of people, you might think of like Yellow Cab or something.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the
Yellow, yeah.
And that's the only like major one we have here. All the other ones are like, we've got like about, I don't know, 40 something of the like locally owned independent
limo and taxi
yes,
services.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So and it's a big part of our economy, obviously, and they have to abide by certain regulations, including ADA compliance. Like they have to make sure they have a certain number of vehicles that can transport people who have handicaps.
Yeah.
And Uber and Lyft don't have to comply with that. That's one of the things. There have been studies that show that there's discrimination that can happen with that. Like, I mean, we're talking extensive studies, like the National Bureau of Economic Research, had a study about how in Seattle and Boston, African Americans wait 35% longer to be picked up.
Uber?
Yeah, and women were taken on much more circuitous routes. Like their routes were a lot longer than for men, even if it was going from like the same A to the same B, basically.
No, because Uber, the driver can see who they're picking up
exactly
before they pick them up, so they can, and then obviously one of the biggest issues is background checks.
Yes.
Fingerprinting. Taxi drivers have to go through a more rigorous background check. But the contract that's approved today, it really has two components. One is, which I think is kind of a joke, is the city is going to financially incentivize Uber and Lyft drivers to get, like, we're going to use our tax money to incentivize people to get fingerprinted and background checked, which to me is kind of like, I mean, it's just a tax break for Uber, basically. Mm-hmm. The other component, and it's a 4-year deal. It's actually going to be a 1-year deal with 3 1-year options to be exercised by the city manager, which is very interesting. It also maintains a $25,000 entry fee for any new companies that want to come to San Antonio, like Uber and Lyft. And then the other kind of main component is we're deregulating the taxi industry quite a bit, not to the point where they don't have to be background checked, and we're still going to maintain the same number of permits, but their fees are going to go down, which I think is fair. And I think that's one way they're getting it passed, is saying we're going to lift the financial burden from the taxi industry a bit. But the main issues that people like Kaitlyn care about are still left on the table, and Uber and Lyft drivers do not have to comply with those things. So, Tony, I guess, where do you stand on this? And what would you do today if you had to vote? Would you approve this deal? And maybe talk about.
So there's a number of complex issues wrapped in this one idea of rideshare. I do like the free market solution, right? The having the competition out there, giving consumers the choice. I do like that, but at the same time, it's unfair to the existing taxi cabs, right? Because in the city, for a long time, we've been holding it to a certain level, right? To those certain regulations that we've been holding it to, and then to allow another company to come in, providing the identical service and not have to abide by any of those same regulations. To me, it just speaks to unfairness. So you either have to raise one up or drop the requirements on the other to make it a level playing field at the end of the day. I mean, that would be, to me, would be the fair thing to do.
It sounds like there's kind of, this contract is like not equalizing them, but bringing them closer together, and probably moving away from, like, Kaitlyn, what you would want is moving away from the regulations that you think we need to maintain that these services are equitable and safe for everyone, right?
And so to me, it's hard to look at somebody who's currently a cab driver and say, hey, this has been your livelihood for so many years. We're going to let somebody play by a completely different set of rules. Like I said, I think that goes back to the sense of fairness, and that doesn't feel right. So I think there has to be something there to make it right.
So what would you do today if you had to vote?
Today,
do you think it's right to subsidize them, though? Because
that's essentially what
I do have like a really big problem. Because like you were talking about volunteering to try to solve a mental health problem, but like we could put money like into things like that actually help a significant amount of people.
So I'm going to step out of the city councilman role for a minute, because I'm not going to because I don't want to. I can't tell another company like how to run the business. But if I were a company like that, what I would do is I would put on the app a built-in feature where you can show people who have been background checked and those that haven't, and make that a default setting. So that way, every time I go, verified driver. So every time I go, I can set like I only want to see verified drivers, right? That's been a proposal. And then what's going to happen is people that are concerned about safety. Guess what they're going to do? They're always going to have that filter on. So that gives incentive for the drivers to go out and get their own background checks. I think that's how I would do. But the problem I have is I think we're going to get into trouble as a city if we try to legislate that, right? Just like we're having right now, because we've been legislating to the taxi cab driver, and now we have this new technology which does provide a valuable service, right? We take people that are probably intoxicated off the road. They can take the Uber and get home.
Studies actually have proved that that's not true.
Yeah, and there's studies on both sides. I know there's studies that say it's not true. It's probably not as true as people like to report. Like Block is out there.
What study is there on the other side? I mean, that's published and verified. I don't know. Because because I read a study in the American Journal of Epidemiology that was a really extensive study looking at an area. And looking at like before and after Uber, and the number of drunk driving fatalities did not decrease significantly. In fact, it might have increased slightly.
Okay.
So like, yeah, I know there was a study that was published. I think it was in the Revard report, and it's been pushed around by Tech Block. And who knows the validity of that study or any of these studies, unless you've read them yourself. Kaitlyn has. I'm glad you're here. And people would like dismiss this, but I have anecdotal evidence from my personal life, myself and friends that I know we have made choices to use Uber where in the past we would have just driven and somebody would have been driving home who's intoxicated. That doesn't mean that we should legislate based on my anecdotal evidence, but there is validity to that though, right? I mean, you can't tell me that, you're lying. I mean, it's happened in my life. I've seen it happen. Again, that doesn't mean we should legislate based on that. I don't know. This is one of the most interesting issues. It's been the most popular issue discussed in Ideas for CoSA. I think that's why Kaitlyn, why you got involved in the group, and many other people got involved because it's very interesting. And who knows what the Texas legislature is going to do to maybe make everything we're talking about kind of null and void, possibly by regulating across the state, which I'm against. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. I'm against the legislature doing any, widespread legislation affecting rideshare or ride hail, because I think every city is so different in their need for regulation on Uber and Lyft or rideshare. If you're in San Antonio or if you're in, Marathon, Texas with 400 people, I think the rules should be different. Especially San Antonio being a tourist city and there's airport. I mean, it's impossible to say here's one law. So I hope if the legislature does anything, I hope they leave some decisions up to each city to be made. I don't know, would you agree with that?
Well, I think, with my stance on getting people involved, I think you can see that my philosophy is very much a bottoms up. And so, yes, I do have trouble whether it's the federal government trying to tell states what to do, and likewise states telling cities what to do. I think it should be the other way around, where citizens are telling our councilmen what to do, and the change should go up, right? Get back to the concept of a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and that's how we would do it. So I do have issues when we try to come up with blanket solutions, because every city is unique. Every person has their own individual ideas, and I think that's where we get into more trouble when we try to do what's right. And I think that's where having that technology, rather than somebody just coming up with an arbitrary decision like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Let's find out what the citizens want. Let's come to consensus on that, and then create legislation that way of, hey, here's what we want here in the city of San Antonio. And then if they want to do their own thing, they're welcome to it. To me, that's just, I guess, my philosophy and the way that makes sense to me. I'm sure other people have different points of view.
Yeah, I mean, my point of view shifts on that depending on the issue, obviously. But would you agree, Kaitlyn, that rideshare or ride hail should be legislated at the local level, or do you think the state should come in, no matter what the state does, do you think there should be across the board, or do you think each city should maintain control?
Well, I mean, for one thing, it's like I think that they should already abide by laws that already are on the books, basically. Like I said, the ADA compliant thing, like basically any kind of thing involving like anti-discrimination and stuff, because that's a really big issue. And I mean, I just don't see I just don't see the problem that Uber solves. I mean, the public problem. Like it doesn't really solve a public transportation problem. It doesn't really solve like the congestion / pollution problem that comes with that we're really going to be like heading into. I mean, it was literally included as part of the SA Tomorrow plan for their options for like what we might do for public transportation. I'm thinking like, how does that even make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. You're talking like the whole entire time it's talking about like shifting to buses, trying to like have more bikes, things like that. And then at the end it like says, well, we technology, and it talks about like the technology that they use with the smart stuff that they use in the traffic lights that helps traffic data, or something that they have, like where some cars have that too, and I don't know, whatever it is. But it mentioned TNCs at Uber and Lyft being one of them, or some of them. And it just mentions that at the end, and I'm just thinking this doesn't even make sense though with what you're saying, like what the problems are and how we should tackle them. This doesn't fit in with that though. And sometimes people do get like they'll get an Uber to their car whenever they're drunk, and then they drive. Like
the whole public transportation issue is actually it's creeping into the ride share, ride hail discussion because it's an important issue for San Antonio.
And I think it's important to bring up a distinction. What you're saying is this is not the rideshare. I don't look at it as a solution to the needs we may have as a city, as a public concern. What it is it's another market option for people who want alternative transportation. And that's why I like that idea of the competition. But you're right, we shouldn't rely on that as a source of, hey, here's how we're going to solve all their transportation issues. This is for those people who want to go that route, who decide, you know what, I don't want to own a car anymore. I'm just going to Uber it or take a rideshare program, whoever it is, and do that way. I think there's a lot of benefit for ordinary citizens who either want to be drivers to make a little bit more income, or people who are like, you know what, I don't have an interest in owning a car, paying insurance, whatever, and decide to go that route. So it does feel an economic need from there, but I don't agree with it being relied upon as part of a plan for the city, because that's a free enterprise transaction going on.
It's different. Yeah. Okay. I think we're out of time, unfortunately. I think we can talk more about this.
I think we can talk all day.
So Tony, you're going to be campaigning.
Yes.
So you're committed. The elections in May,
yes.
Correct? So we have a long time ahead of that. Hopefully we'll have more conversations like this.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, we're limited to, I think, 45 minutes to be able to post to Facebook. If I can rig up Facebook Live, I think we can go longer, possibly. But I haven't figured that out yet. So thank you guys for doing this. Awesome to meet both of you and actually have like a real discussion supplementing what we talk about.
Thank you both for being here today too. I mean, it speaks volumes for people coming out and taking action. And as you can see, that's one of the things I'm very passionate about is not just talking the talk, but getting out there and having the action behind your words and making that change and being the change that you want to see. So cool. I congratulate both of you on taking action today.
Thanks, Tony. And it's votefortonyb.com. If anybody wants to check out Tony, the group does not endorse any candidates as a group. We don't make any group stances on any issues. I'm just a moderator of the group, and my opinions do not reflect the group at all. Everyone has a voice in the community to say what they want. But we want to get to know people who are running for office, and we want to get people who are in office to talk to us too. So thanks again.
Yes.
Thank you, Kaitlyn. Okay. All right. Awesome.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
I think like in